Chapter 30, The New Beginning. Now, one of the things about this section is its placement within the text. It's the second last chapter, and these are basic rules for decision, and I could never understand why it took Jesus this long to want to introduce this to us, but obviously in him being a master teacher, this curriculum is laid out perfectly. So it is in its perfect spot, so I will no longer fight that. Introduction. In the CE, this is rules for decision. The new beginning now becomes the focus of the curriculum. Okay, so we had a beginning, but now we have a new beginning. The goal is clear, but now you need specific methods for attaining it. All right, so now we know where we're going. The goal is clear. We are understanding atonement. We're understanding forgiveness. We're understanding miracles. But now we need some specific methods. The speed by which it can be reached depends on this one thing alone: your willingness to practice every step. He's going to go through some steps. He's asking us to practice. This is not the workbook. And we have to be willing to practice. Okay, you came all this way. Are you going to practice now? You've done the workbook. You've studied all these manuals in the text. And here you are in chapter 30, and he's saying, okay, we're ready to start practicing now. Well, wait a minute. I thought we were going to the playoffs here. Why are we practicing? Each one will help a little every time it is attempted. In other words, you can't lose in this. If you just practice, if you'll follow every step, it's perfect practice. Remember my admonition. Practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. You have to be taught right and then practice with the correct procedure. I used to not be able to shoot a foul shot in basketball for anything. I could practice all day. I'm not shooting correctly. I miss, and I'm practicing missing and practicing missing and getting really better at missing. Perfect practice makes perfect. And together will these steps lead you from dreams of judgment to forgiving dreams and out of pain and fear. Is anyone interested in being out of pain, out of fear, and leaving a dream of judgment? They are not new to you, but they are more ideas than rules of thought to you as yet. All right, so now he's distinguishing between an idea. Oh, I have an idea of something. Is it a rule of thought? In other words, is this a law or a rule that governs everything in your thinking? Or is this just an idea? See, I have an idea. Hey, I want to go and get a patent on my idea. You can't get a patent on an idea. You have to get a patent on something that is solid, not just an idea. You've got to lay it out. You've got to flesh it out, so to say. Well, we have to flesh out our ideas and let them evolve through perfect practice of every step in the ideas so that they become rules of thought. So now we need to practice them a while until they are the rules by which you live. We seek to make them habits now so you will have them ready for whatever need. Rules of thought, rules by which you live. Habits, ready. My toolbox is ready. I got my toolbox with me at all times. What is it? My rules of thought. No matter what appears to come my way, and all things are lessons, I know how to make a proper decision based on what's in my toolbox. Are you interested? All right, now we go to section 1 in the FIP, which is rules for decision. CE basically does away with introductions as separate modules. Decisions are continuous. This is rules for decision. First understanding to have a rule is, what is a decision? Well, I don't know what it is yet, but I can tell you one thing. They're going on all the time. Decisions are continuous. You do not always know when you are making them. So they're not always within awareness, but they're still being decided. See, there's two parts to the dream. There's the hidden part of the dream, and then there's the visible part, or the aware part of the dream. The hidden part of the dream is where the majority, if not all, things start. You think you made a decision out here in the aware side of the dream, but no, you did not. It was done in the unconscious part of the dream, in the unconscious part of the mind. Based on what? Based on these rules of thought. It's proven. They can tell through brain activity that before you decide, you think, now we're talking about milliseconds here, okay? But let's move the milliseconds into seconds. You think, I ask you a question, do you want blueberry or apple cobbler? 1 second goes by, 2 seconds goes by, 3 seconds goes by. Fourth second, I want apple. Okay? Well, common sense tells you, if you know anything about time, that before you activated your words, you made a decision in your brain. So there's even a time you probably made the decision to notify your vocal cords in second 3. But the brain activity shows no. You decided at second 1.5. So even science, even that which is projected out into form and matter, is telling you these decisions are really done way before you're conscious of them. And you're making them all the time. But with a little practice, with the ones you recognize, a set begins to form, which sees you through the rest. So now we talk about a set. See, these rules of thought become sets for decision making. I practice on this, I practice on that, but the focus of this entire curriculum is on generalization to get to a set, so that I don't have to think about is it an A type or a B type or a D type or an X type. It doesn't matter. My set covers all of it, sees me through all of them. It is not wise to let yourself become preoccupied with every step you take. The proper set, adopted consciously each time you wake, will put you well ahead. Where's he going with this? He's saying, I'm trying to get you into a thought system, a set of rules of thought that become habits for decisions that you are making all the time. But we don't need to fumble around with and be preoccupied with every step that he's going to teach us, but to form these steps into one set and to consciously adopt the set. Today, Father, upon waking, upon time to come into conscious decision making, I accept that which you have trained me in. You mind trained me into a habit, into a set. I will walk in this today. Do I need to know A, B, C, D? No. See, a bowler, you can't follow up a professional. But if you know someone isn't really that great of a bowler and they're doing really good, just ask them something in the 6 steps they're taking to do that. Hey, Bob, how many steps do you take again when you bowl? You're doing great. How many steps you take? Hey, Bob, which foot do you walk off with first? Hey, Bob, do you put your fingers in first or do you put your thumb in first? Let me tell you something. If he's not a professional bowler and has established a habit and a set, he will be so fouled up. Why? Because he's becoming preoccupied. You introduced confusion into him. He was just doing it. Hey, you put your hand in there. I noticed you put your hand in there at about 45 degrees. Did you learn to do that? What happens if you put it at 50 degrees? He doesn't know he put it in at 45 degrees, but now he's thinking about it. Well, I'm sure he practiced that at some point, maybe not consciously, but what was the proof that he was doing it right? The score, the result, the effect.
And if you find resistance strong and dedication weak, you are not ready. Do not fight yourself.
He said, don't fight yourself. See, that guy that goes up to bowl with that in his mind, he's going to be fighting himself. You're going to see, I want to start, but I don't know which foot to start with. Section 1, Rules for Decision. One of the workbook lessons says, on my decision, all salvation rests. This is about your choice, about your desire. You made options. You made differences and choices. So you make decisions. So quick review. Decisions are happening all the time. Call it 24/7. Call it every instant. You are making decisions all the time about everything. Because this is your world. This is your deal. This is your universe. You're selecting. You're choosing. You're deciding. He told us you don't always know you're making them. In other words, you don't recognize you're making decisions all the time because most of them are not conscious decisions. The majority are most likely unconscious decisions. And here we are in chapter 30, and now he's just telling us that we're about in a place where we might learn how to make a proper decision. He's going to teach us some steps, but he says don't worry about fooling around with every step. I use the analogy of sports or bowling. You don't think about every step you're going to take with your bowling ball. You just bowl because you've already practiced, and you've practiced perfectly. Because only perfect practice makes perfect. Practice does not make perfect. He says that we will develop a set of decision-making rules which cover everything. We'll cover all of the decisions we are making unconsciously, And he sets us on a path to make these ideas that we've learned in these previous chapters to become rules of thought, to become habits by which you live. So that's a quick review. So in the middle of paragraph 1 of section 1, we'll pick up. It says the proper set, adopted consciously each time you wake, will put you well ahead. So we're going to develop a set, but we're going to have to remind ourselves. And remember, when you wake, when he says when you wake, what does that mean? Well, you're coming from a different state of mind. You are coming from somewhat of a unconscious state, correct? You don't realize you're dreaming and that you're safe at home in your bed. But when you wake, you realize, oh, I've been asleep, I've been dreaming. I am now awake. So you're in a different state of mind. Listen to an interesting podcast by Robert Perry recently about, there are some notes in, and I'm not sure if it's in the Urtext, but it's in Helen's notes about how she would pray. And there were times when she was directed to pray for people, and actually she prayed to their mind. In other words, she was performing a miracle, and Jesus directed her to do that when they were sleeping, like when her husband was sleeping. Go deal with this, because his mind is in a different state. It is more open to conscious miracles, consciously directed miracles. So when we wake, we consciously choose this set that we have learned or have been learning. He says, and if you find resistance strong and dedication weak, you are not ready. Do not fight yourself. In other words, the reason I used to get frustrated, why is this showing up in chapter 30, is because Jesus is telling us, you have to be ready to engage in this level of conscious set making, rules of thought, for decisions that affect not only your thoughts, but your responses and your actions, your doings. So if you don't have time for this, you don't want to fool with it, you can do it yourself, okay, you're not ready. But don't fight yourself. Don't beat yourself up. He says instead, sentence 8, but think about the kind of day you want and tell yourself there is a way in which this very day can happen just like that. Then try again to have the day you want. All right, so you're trying to develop this set. You're trying to agree with it, to start the day with it, and to maintain it. All right, if you can't do that, he says, think about the kind of day you want. And know that this can happen just like that. You can have the kind of day you really want based on your desire, on your intention. So he said he was going to give some steps that will bring us into a place of having a set. Here is step 1, paragraph 2. The outlook starts with this. Today, I will make no decisions by myself. This means that you are choosing not to be the judge of what to do. Whoa, wait a minute. I'm not going to be the judge of what I'm going to do? I thought I was going to be the judge of what I do. I thought I was in charge of my day. Well, guess what? You're not in charge, nor have you ever been in charge of your day. And you'll learn why you haven't been in charge as we continue through these steps. So this is the important first step. And remember, he said he encouraged us, he exhorted us in the introduction to this to practice every step. You must be willing to practice every step. But it must also mean you will not judge the situations where you will be called upon to make response. For if you judge them, you have set the rules for how you should react to them. All right, so number 1, don't think you can make decisions by yourself. You're not going to do that. As part of that, I'm not going to judge a situation. In other words, if something appears in my day, if I judge the situation, if I analyze it and evaluate and judge it as being A, B, or C, which I've seen before, which means I'm now pulling my past learning and teaching, which we have taught ourselves wrongly, because really we have not taught ourselves. We've had some help. We always look to a teacher, to a guide. So if we grab onto that, oh, I know how to do this. Oh, we got a traffic jam. I know what to do. I know this back route. Okay, we'll take your back route then. But that is not the way to go. That means you judge the situation. And you set the rules on how to react to it. In other words, I know. Well, the key to this process, to this set, is you don't know. You threw away knowledge. You don't know anything. And then you made an ego to try to balance out your instability, to think he knows, and he doesn't know anything. And then another answer cannot but produce confusion and uncertainty and fear. Right? If you've already put yourself on the throne to make the decision yourself, if you're already set to utilize your past decision making and your past learning to respond to any situation, when another thought comes or another answer comes, which is, let's say in that situation, in that analogy, is stay right here in this traffic jam, or go down this road. You've never been down there before, but just trust yourself, go down this road. You're not going to do that. You're going to be too uncertain. You're going to be too fearful. You're going to be too confused. It says this is your major problem now. Did you know that? Here we are, these wonderful course students. If Jesus said to you, hey, do you want to know what your major problem is? You got a major problem, Jack. Do you want to know what it is? I just explained it to you. Here's what it is. You still make up your mind and then decide to ask what you should do. We make up our mind and then we decide to ask. It's kind of like, remember, you should be ready, aim, fire. We ready, fire, aim. Then we ask, oh, something went wrong here, so now I guess I should ask. And what you hear may not resolve the problem as you saw it first. Why wouldn't it resolve the problem as you saw it first? Because you saw the problem wrongly. You thought you were in a traffic jam. This is not an issue about a traffic jam. Possibly it's something else. You're dealing with a traffic jam. But you made up your mind about all this. This leads to fear because it contradicts what you perceive, and so you feel attacked and therefore angry. Don't tell me I don't know what I'm doing. Don't tell me I didn't see this right. Don't tell me I am lacking here. I don't want to stop and ask. When I ask, I get an answer, and then I get ticked at the answer. Not knowing is a fearful state. We're believing our perceptions. We're confident in our perceptions. We think, what do we say? Good judgment. I went through officer candidate school in the Army. That was one of the primary values, or whatever they called them, that you're supposed to have as an officer, good judgment. I read my evaluations from higher-ranked officers. This young officer has good judgment. He's developed good judgment. Oh, really? What does that mean? It says he's beginning to perceive correctly based on how I think he should perceive and how the Army thinks he should perceive, and now he's perceiving correctly. So he has good judgment. So based on judgment, based on your having learned perception in a certain way, when a different answer comes, you feel attacked, and you respond with fear and anger. There are rules by which this will not happen, but it does occur at first while you are learning how to hear. You need to learn how to hear, and he's just gave you a whole bunch of tips on how to do that in step 1. So thank you, Jesus, for straightening us out there. On to step 2. Throughout the day, at any time you think of it, and have a quiet moment for reflection, tell yourself again the kind of day you want, the feelings you would have, the things you want to happen to you, and the things you would experience and say. Before we go on to what we're going to say, let's go through that again. This is something close to what I learned from Dr. Wayne Dyer. Dr. Wayne Dyer taught me, not personally, I listened to a tape or saw him on PBS or whatever. All right, what did he teach me? He taught me, say this, I want to feel good today. And keep saying it until you feel good. I would do it my whole way on the way to work, 40-minute drive. I want to feel good today. After a while, you just start realizing, I'm going to feel good today. And I would feel good when I got to work. And then I would recognize and suddenly become aware by 9 a.m. or 9:30, I ain't feeling good anymore. I'm not happy. How did I get from where I was to where I am now? And I'd stop and do it again. So he's saying here, he understands you're going to be busy throughout your day. He says, if you happen to think of it, or you have a quiet moment of reflection, remind yourself of the kind of day you want. Now, he gives you 3 things here, which he often does. 3s. The feelings you would have. In other words, the way I want to feel here. My emotional state. Even my physical state. The things I want to happen to me. And the things I would experience. Now, he designates a difference between what you want to happen to you and things you want to experience. And say, if I make no decisions by myself, this is the day that will be given me. So he reverts back to step 1. I will make no decisions for myself. Now I'm in the day. I did that consciously upon waking. I'm in the day. I may not have this set down, so I have already determined how I want the day, the things I want to happen to me, etc., etc. The kind of day I want. I've already set that. And he said feelings, happenings, and experiences. So we go back to, well, the key to keeping and holding this and maintaining this frame of mind is to decide again if I make no decisions by myself. This is the day that will be given me. Oh, wait a minute. Given me. Given me by who? These two procedures, practiced well, will serve to let you be directed without fear, for opposition will not first arise and then become a problem in itself. So what is the trap? The trap is that deciding by yourself first, as he said, will lead you into fear, because you're not going to like the day you get. You're not going to like your feelings. You're not going to like what's happening. You're not going to like the experience. And fear is going to arise. And now if you enter into further fear, you're going to be further misdirected. Why? Because the opposition to the answer, to getting to the proper guide who is going to help make these decisions for me and give me this day, is going to be blocked by fear, resentment, and anger. Feeling attacked. A mental process. So you have upset. And you don't know why. You can't find that balance. You ever feel like you can't catch your breath on a given day? You just can't catch your breath. Your spiritual breath. Well, this is the activity that is going on in the mind. But there will still be times when you have judged already. Now the answer will provoke attack unless you quickly straighten out your mind to want an answer that will work. If it provokes attack, what are you going to do? You're going to defend. You're defending against something. You're defending your own decision process. And you're going to defend against it by attacking and engaging in anger. You're going to project the attack, and now you're yelling at people. Now you're upset. Now you're throwing things or whatever. You're projecting it because you don't recognize what's going on within your mind. So he says you got to straighten out your mind to want the answer. What kind of answer? An answer that will work. Work to what? Work to give you the day you want. Be certain this has happened if you feel yourself unwilling to sit by and ask to have the answer given you. The hardest thing to do in any disciplinary mind process is to stop. You got to stop. That's what I learned to do from Dr. Dyer. Stop. I suddenly recognized I'm not in peace. Stop. How long did it take me to recognize? It took me an hour and a half. Okay, I don't want to wait an hour and a half before I stop in the future. I want to recognize I'm out of peace in an instant. Well, it's not going to happen overnight. Maybe tomorrow it'll only take me an hour. Maybe the day after only 30 minutes of chaos and confusion before I say stop. But why not say stop the instant you sense any lack of peace? You can get there because of your willingness or your unwillingness to not stop and ask. Stop and ask. This means you have decided by yourself and cannot see the question. Now you need a quick restorative before you ask again. Now, doesn't that quick restorative sound like a medicine? Kind of like you got diarrhea and you need something. It's more likely what you have is you're constipated and you need something to lighten. You need a quick restorative. Now, this is something that boggled my mind for a while. Because it didn't say you can't see the answer, did it? What did it say? You decided by yourself and you cannot see the question. You can't see the question? Well, how did we start talking about questions? I thought we were interested in answers here. You can't see the question. All right, so now we're looking for guidance. We're looking to not make decisions on our own. We're looking for an answer. Okay, well, if you're looking for an answer, you have to ask a question. We have a Q&A session following our teaching today. Did you ever hear someone say, okay, if you have any answers, raise your hand? No. If you have any questions, raise your hand. Because I can't give you an answer till you give me a question. Guidance can't come without a question. Now, this whole topic of questions is very important because Jesus talks about it a lot in the Course, because there's really only one question that you asked yourself to set you off into La La Land, and that was, what am I? Because you knew what you were until you asked the question. There's no questions and answers in heaven. There's only knowing knowledge. So the whole idea of a question had to come first, and now we're seeking for all kinds of answers from ourselves, from guides. But those answers have to come based on a question. The questions are as hidden as the answers. I remember one time I was teaching, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was one of the prophetic things out of Matthew chapter 24, talking about, quote, the end times, whatever that is. They were talking to Jesus, and he gave 3 things, 3 answers. But the answers are no good unless you know what their question was. And I remember I kind of put my pastor on the hot seat. I said, if you don't know what the question is and I tell you what the answers are, and I don't remember the 3, but I remember the 3rd thing I said, and I say the answers are oranges, chocolate candy, and Brother Jerry, who was the pastor, Brother Jerry's underwear. What good is that? And of course everyone laughed. But what good is that unless you know what the questions were? You'll make up your own question based on the answer we got here. You're probably making up stuff now. You have to know what the question is. So in this idea, we're talking about decisions, we're talking about answers, we're talking about questions. So I think of it this way. If I ask a question, should I go out today and buy the blue Camaro or the red Camaro? And I'm going to wait for an answer. Well, what if the question's wrong? What if I'm not supposed to buy a Camaro at all? If I didn't ask the question properly, if I get a blue as an answer, what if that's the wrong question? What if it was supposed to be, what kind of Mustang was I supposed to buy today? Blue. But I asked the wrong question. Therefore, I can't understand the answer. So the quick restorative. He says, before you ask again. This is step 3. Remember once again the day you want, and recognize that something has occurred that is not part of it. Then realize that you have asked the question by yourself and must have set an answer in your terms. Then say, I have no question. I forgot what to decide. Okay, you have to cancel out the question. You ever listen to reporters talking to, say, the president's press secretary, and they ask 8 questions in the midst of a statement, and it's amazing that person like Sarah Sanders can even understand where to start the answer from, because she has to defend against the statement. Remember that Jesus told us most questions are not questions, they're statements in disguise. They're statements disguised as a question. Do you still beat your wife, Mr. President? It's not a question. Why do you keep lying, Mr. President? Is that a question or is that a statement? All right, so if you'll pay attention, you'll see this mystery of question-answer decision all around you, because the mind is showing itself all the time. So we've started on the wrong path with this. And the proof that we're on the wrong path is what? That I don't like the feelings I'm having, I don't like the things that are happening to me, and I don't like my experience. So something has gone wrong. So we need to go back to the beginning. What is the beginning? The beginning is, I have to realize I've done this by myself. I did not ask for help in the decision making. So therefore, I did not ask for help with the answer, and I did not ask for help with asking the question. Forget the answer. I already know the answer's wrong. How? I don't like the way I feel. I don't like the things that are happening. I don't like what I'm experiencing. The answer's wrong, which means, now this is multi-part. Number 1, I'm asking by myself. I'm trying to decide by myself. I'm getting the answer from the wrong guide. And number 3, I'm asking the wrong question. So let's get to the root of all that and go back to, I have got to cancel the question. If I don't know what question's being answered. I have to cancel out the question. So the press secretary, the Holy Spirit, God's press secretary, says, what was your question again? Can you clarify that? And you know what you're supposed to say? Forget I asked. Forget about it. I don't have a question. I have no question. I forgot what to decide. I'm not getting to a decision because I don't even know what I was trying to decide about, so let's drop the question. Forget I asked. So step 3, this cancels out the terms that you have set and lets the answer show you what the question must have really been. Oh, so now if I cancel out the question, now something about the answer begins to show itself. The answer to the question shows me what the question must have been. I asked the wrong question. I got an answer, but it was to the wrong question. You're not going to know that till you cancel out your question. Try to observe this rule without delay despite your opposition, for you have already gotten angry, and your fear of being answered in a different way from what your version of the question asks will gain momentum until you believe the day you want is one in which you get your answer to your question. In other words, I'm stubborn here. I want my answer to my question, Jesus and Holy Spirit. I know you're trying to help me here, but dang it, I'm on this path. I want an answer. I want an answer. That's anger showing you how you're taking your day into hell. And you will not get it, for it would destroy the day by robbing you of what you really want. I want an answer. You're not getting an answer. Because love will not answer you. And you're asking the wrong question. You're asking love the wrong question. Because love knows what you really want. Love knows you're calling for love. You're calling for peace. But you got to know how to ask. You remember, what was the name of that movie? Jack Nicholson is the Marine at Guantanamo Bay. You Can't Handle the Truth, that movie. Remember when Tom Cruise wanted to get some records at the beginning when he first met him? And the colonel, played by Jack Nicholson, said, you can have your answer. You can have them. But you're going to have to ask nicely. You're going to have to ask nicely. Well, you can have love's answer, but you have to ask in love. You have to ask outside of fear and outside of anger and outside of separation and your own desire to choose for yourself and by yourself. This can be very hard to realize. A Few Good Men was the name of the movie. Thank you. You can't handle the truth. This can be very hard to realize when once you have decided by yourself the rules that promise you a happy day. Yet this decision still can be undone by simple methods that you can accept. Okay, you're still stubborn. It's still hard to realize when you decided by yourself the rules that promise you a happy day. You think you know how to have a happy day. You do not know how to have a happy day. I do not know how to have a happy day. We've studied 29 chapters. He's just now getting to this. I got angry that this was here. Why is this not chapter 1? Now you're telling me how to make a decision. I've been studying all this time, went through the workbook, and now you're telling me this? Well, it's the same thing. Who's getting angry? Who's getting upset about where this thing is? The one that doesn't know how to build this set for decision making. It says it can be undone by simple methods that you can accept. Guess who's given us the simple methods? Jesus and the Holy Spirit. Where? We're on step 4 of the simple methods. Step 4, if you are so unwilling to receive, you cannot even let your question go, you can begin to change your mind with this. Oh, so now, Jesus, you're telling me I'm such a mess here that even in the midst of your teaching, I'm not letting this question go? Yeah, that's how stubborn you are. So you can begin to change your mind with this. At least I can decide. I do not like what I feel now. Can we get that far? Okay, I told you all about these questions and answers and all the stuff that goes with it, and the fear and the anger and the opposition and the defense and the attack. But can you at least just say you don't like what you're feeling right now? Okay, I don't like how I feel right now. This much is obvious and paves the way for the next easy step. Yeah, I don't feel good. I don't like what's happening to me. I don't like what I'm experiencing. Yeah, that's obvious. And guess what? It's most likely obvious to everybody else. What's his problem today? What's he all upset? What's he anxious about? He looks weird. He doesn't look good. Are you okay? Everything all right over there? Where's that come from? The mind is showing itself in the body. It's snapping at people, making stupid decisions, being coarse with people. All that stuff is going to show up. All right, so now we're on to step 5. Having decided that you do not like the way you feel, what could be easier than to continue with, and so I hope I have been wrong. I have been wrong. If I'm not feeling good, if I don't like my day, if stuff's happening, if stuff's hitting the fan, if I'm experiencing stuff I don't want to experience, I hope I've been wrong. Because guess what? The only one person that can be wrong, the only mind that can be wrong here is you. So I hope I have been wrong. This works against the sense of opposition and reminds you that help is not being thrust upon you, but is something that you want and that you need because you do not like the way you feel. I need help. Stop. I need help. I hope I've been wrong here about what I want. I hope I'm wrong because I've got what I want. So I hope I'm in wrong. about this whole process. If I can't get to anything else, at least admit that. This tiny opening will be enough to let you go ahead with just a few more steps you need to let yourself be helped. This is the step right before asking for help. I hope I've been wrong. Can I get a little help here? We put ourselves in responsibilities and positions of responsibility where people are looking to us for all, not only we're making decisions for us, but we're making decisions for family, for children, for people we supervise, the owners of the stock of the company, shareholders. We put ourselves in these positions, which is the idea that I've got to be right here today. And I've taught myself to be right. That's why I'm in the position I'm in. But it doesn't matter what position you're in. Point is, what is the kind of day you really want? I know the kind of day you really want. It's a day in the real world and in the happy dream, full of love, peace, joy, and miracle working as your only true purpose and function. And the results of receiving back miracles, completing the process of giving and receiving with increase of love, of peace, of joy. Now you have reached the turning point, because it has occurred to you that you will gain if what you have decided is not so. In other words, I'm the president of this mind, and I'm at a turning point because it finally dawned on me that if I get out of the way here, I got a chance at gain, because otherwise I am in total defeat here. I'm heading the wrong way, and it's snowballing. Until this point is reached, you will believe your happiness depends on being right. But this much reason have you now attained, you would be better off if you were wrong. Don't keep trying to find rightness in wrongness. I'd rather admit I'm better off if I am wrong in the situation I'm in. But I'm not driving this thing off a cliff. I'm going to stop. I'm better off if I am wrong. So that's what happens most of the time when we have really bad endings, really bad outcomes. It's when, man, you know you're lost. You ladies probably know this with your male, whatever, spouses or friends. Think they know where they're going, and next thing you know, you're out of gas, you're in la la land somewhere, you're in the wrong neighborhood, whatever that means. Why didn't you just listen to me when I said pull over and get a map out or hit the GPS, or we passed that gas station 80 miles ago and should have went in? I told you to stop. Okay, but this mind that we've set, this decision-making process, is no, I got to be right here. I'm right. I know I'm right. No, you don't. You know you're wrong. If you don't know you're wrong, pretend you're wrong. You're better off pretending you're wrong, even when you think you're right, than to keep rolling along thinking you're right. Step 6, this tiny grain of wisdom. Ladies, isn't that really what you are sitting there? You're the tiny grain of wisdom, reminding them of the tiny grain of wisdom. Will suffice to take you further. You are not coerced, but merely hope to get a thing you want, and you can say in perfect honesty, I want another way to look at this. In other words, I know it's wrong. Or at least I hope it's wrong, so I want to see it right. I want another way to look at this. Now you have changed your mind about the day and have remembered what you really want. Its purpose has no longer been obscured by the insane belief you want it for the goal of being right when you are wrong. Remember, Jesus asks one place in the Course, would you rather be right or be happy? What's the goal here? The goal is the kind of day I want, and I want a happy day. Oh, happy day, oh, the happy day. That's what I want. That's what you want. I don't want to be right. I want the happy day. Insane belief to keep thinking you're right when you're wrong. What did Einstein say? What is the definition of insanity? Continuing to do the same thing, thinking you're going to get a different result. In other words, insanity is getting bad feelings, bad things happening to you, and bad experiences, and still do the same thing thinking you're right, thinking that that's going to change. It's not going to change. You are wrong. Thus is the readiness for asking brought to your awareness, for you cannot be in conflict when you ask for what you want and see that it is this for which you ask. You're going all the way back to step 1, 2, and 3. I'm wrong here. I don't want to be right. I want what I want. I want the day I set forth. I must be wrong, therefore I must have asked the wrong question, therefore let's cancel out the question. Forget I asked. I want a fresh start. How many fresh starts can you have in a day? How many you want? Keep doing it until you get what you want. I've said this before. There's a movie, it's called The Lords of Flatbush. Probably can't find it. It's one of Sylvester Stallone's pre-Rocky movies. And he plays this 1950s hooligan, tough guy. And there's a scene in there where he's playing pool for money, and he gets up and starts shooting, and he misses, but he just keeps shooting. He just keeps shooting until he shoots all the balls he's supposed to, playing 8-ball or 9-ball, I don't remember. And then he grabs the money, and the dude's like, "What are you doing, man? It's my shot." What? We play by my rules. I play till I win. That's what you need to do here. Step 7, this final step, is but an acknowledgement of lack of opposition to be helped. It is a statement of an open mind, not certain yet, but willing to be shown. And here's what it is. Here's the step. Perhaps, there's another way to look at this. What can I lose by asking? What can I lose by asking? Why does the guy not stop the car and ask? Because he thinks he's going to lose something by asking. You know how guys are. Well, we're all like that. We think we know. We don't want to admit that we're lacking or in fear. In fact, the fear is rising. I know this doesn't seem like the right road, but I'm not going to ask, because then I'd have to admit that macho man here, who's most machos, is in fear and in doubt. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to uphold the false defenses. I'm going to yell at you. Don't tell me I don't know where I'm going. Why? Because I'm feeling defensive. I'm feeling attacked by you asking me to stop. So what do? I attack you, or the car, or the guy that is driving too slow in front of me. Thus, you now can ask a question that makes sense, and so the answer will make sense as well. Nor will you fight against it, for you see that it is you who will be helped by it. So you begin to trust. You begin to trust this process, the answers that come, the guide that's giving the answers. And you begin to trust yourself to begin to formulate right questions based on truly what your will is, not your wish. Because your wish and your will are two different things. Your will is being clarified by your wish being clarified, to begin to wish for a real world and happy dream rather than this crazy world of insanity we made, of pain and horror, and this nightmare instead of the happy dream. And it becomes a reflection of our will. It must be clear that it is easier to have a happy day if you prevent unhappiness from entering at all. But this takes practice in the rules that will protect you from the ravages of fear. When this has been achieved, the sorry dream of judgment has forever been undone. But meanwhile, you have need for practicing the rules for its undoing. Let us then consider once again the very first of the decisions which are offered here. So, we're going to practice this. We're going to get to a point where we prevent unhappiness from coming in. In other words, I want to be happy today. I'm going to be happy today. I am happy today. Great. I'm ready. When did unhappiness slip in? Man, I can feel it right now. Okay, stop. Let's go through this again. Let's get the practice down. I'm not even going to let unhappiness get in here for an instant. Okay, now I'm not falling into fear. I'm not in attack, feeling attack, and judgment, and all these things, and defense, and anger. Why? Because I didn't even let unhappiness come in. So he's saying you can get there through practices, but let's just go back to step 1 here for a minute. We said you can begin a happy day with the determination not to make decisions by yourself. This seems to be a real decision in itself. And yet, you cannot make decisions by yourself. Now, there's an enigma or a riddle wrapped up in a mystery here. Wait a minute. You're telling me to decide not to make decisions for myself. Well, then how can I decide to make a decision not by myself? How can I decide that? I can't make the decision to decide that by myself. The only question really is with what you choose to make them. That is really all. The first rule, then, is not coercion, but a simple statement of a simple fact. You will not make decisions by yourself, whatever you decide. See, you've never made a decision by yourself. Ever. So your decision not to make a decision by yourself has to be made with another helper, another guide. Because all your decisions always have, and he's going to explain that. For they are made with idols or with God. And you ask help of Antichrist or Christ, and which you choose will join with you and tell you what to do. So there's your decision guides. Idols or God? Antichrist or Christ? Who are you going to ask? Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. You're going to call Christ or Antichrist. You're going to call on idols or call on God. You always have. Every decision, and they're made continuously, has been made with the help. Even the decision to not make decisions on your own. You clouded your mind to believe you're making decisions on your own when you're not. Your day is not at random. It is set by what you choose to live it with and how the friend whose counsel you have sought perceives your happiness. Oh, I thought this idol and this Antichrist was my enemy. No, you empowered that thought. There's no Antichrist. There are no idols. There's no ego. You empowered it. You threw away knowledge. So what does it think you want? It wants you to be dumb, to be a dunce, not know. Stay in confusion. Stay in not knowing. I guess that's what you want because that's what you empowered me to do. Keep you out of knowledge. Oh, your happiness is fear. Your happiness is confusion. I'm giving you what you want. I'm your teacher. You empowered me to keep you out of heaven, to keep you out of peace and out of love. So your happiness must be confusion and pain and a lack of peace and conflict and wars and attacks and defenses. I thought I was going to get Teacher of the Year here, says Antichrist, says the ego, says the idol. I'm doing what you want me. I thought this is what you want. You want to be happy, don't you? Well, I know what your happiness is. You told me what it is. Stay out of heaven. Your day's not at random. You always ask advice before you can decide on anything. Always. Let this be understood, and you can see there cannot be coercion here, nor grounds for opposition that you may be free. There is no freedom from what must occur, and if you think there is, you must be wrong. There's no freedom from what must occur. Based on what? Based on my teacher I've chosen, that I have desired, that I have empowered. It's not coercion. I asked them. I signed up for this school. I signed up for this officer candidate school. I wasn't drafted. You weren't drafted. You chose this. You're paying for this. This is what cracks me up about kids that pay $100,000 to go to college and then skip classes. What are you doing? You paid for this. You chose this. Oh, no, I didn't. My parents made me go. Oh, so you're being coerced. There's no coercion. There's nothing in your life at any time, this so-called life, this so-called day that is at random. The second rule as well is but a fact, for you and your advisor must agree on what you want before it can occur. See, this is so important. Remember the things, how you feel, what you're experiencing, what's happening to you. None of that is by chance. It is not random. In fact, you and your guide, your advisor, must agree on it before it can occur. See, I learned this by stubbing toes or hitting my knee on the corner of the table. God damn table. No, I finally realized, okay, I decided to do that. Now, he tells us about decisions. Jesus says, you're making these decisions so quickly that you don't realize and you forget that you made that decision. Getting older or whatever happens in this thing where you make a decision, I'm going to go get something, and you get up and you take 3 steps and then you stop and go, what am I doing? Why am I in the closet? What is that? It's the same thing. I made a decision and I forgot about it. Okay, well, you're doing that in microseconds all the time. I decided with my, hey, I'm going to get up here and go to the closet, but before I do, I don't want heaven. So, Mr. Teacher, let's find something to run into with my toe here, or my knee, or my elbow, or my head. Okay, let's do that. Bam! We just hit. Oh, why did that happen? Who put that there? Guess what? You did. That's what taught me. Pain will teach you. It doesn't have to, but it gets your attention. I chose that. I chose to stub my toe. I'm choosing this pain. I'm choosing everything. And now he's clarifying, you chose it with an advisor. You can't decide yourself. It is but this agreement that permits all things to happen, because it always takes agreement. You couldn't even come into perception without agreement with another mind. So we make up a mind. That's what the split is all about. And we split off a teacher, and we empower a teacher. Why? So we can agree in the hidden part of unconsciousness for all these things to happen, and then think that it's just randomly happening and fate's doing it. Nothing can be caused without some form of union, be it with a dream of judgment or the voice for God. Decisions cause results because they are not made in isolation. They are made by you and your advisor, for yourself and for the world as well. The day you want, you offer to the world, for it will be what you have asked for and will reinforce the rule of your advisor in the world. Whose kingdom is the world for you today? What kind of day will you decide to have? It needs but two who would have happiness this day to promise it to all the world. Okay, now we're moving from your mind into your idea of what the world is. It needs but two who would have happiness today to promise it to all the world. It needs but two to understand that they cannot decide alone to guarantee the joy they ask for will be wholly shared. For they have understood the basic law that makes decision powerful and gives it all effects that it will ever have. It needs but two. This is why this is a Course in Miracles, because we're taking the two and we're changing the world by the two. How many people does it take? How many teachers does it take? One. One that knows there is no two. It's agreeing with at least one other mind in the miracle. It needs but two. These two are joined before there can be a decision. Let this be the one reminder that you keep in mind, and you will have the day you want, and give it to the world by having it yourself. Your judgment has been lifted from the world by your decision for a happy day, and as you have received, so must you give. In other words, I agree with my teacher, the Christ, the Holy Spirit, Jesus, God, to have this happy day, to ask the right questions, to get the right answers, to build this set. But it's not just for me. I give this day, I give this agreement to the world. I am a miracle worker. I am a healer. I am a forgiver. And I bring the happiness of my day to all those who appear in the dream with me, to appear in the world with me. Nobody's going to have a bad day around a healed healer. That's why Jesus had people following him, because his day made their day wonderful. There was no lack in the day. There was only peace. There's a place in the Course where Jesus says you'll know that you are a healed healer when everyone around you that you touch, that you see, that you even think of, are in the same day with you. They're in the same state of mind with you. A healed healer, no one can be sick around a healed healer, because a healed healer can't see sickness. It can't see lack. Why? It has already joined with its teacher, and they're sharing the reality of the real world mentality and the happy dream with all that are appearing. Because there is no exclusion in it. There's only joining, and there's only oneness, and there's only sharing, because that's what love is, and that's who you are.